I want to begin this commentary differently, all right? I do not have a clever opening or a viral clip, okay? Um, Today, we're doing something that I've been supposed to be doing for a little while now, but I fell off on it. Today, I need you to look at some faces. And I need you to remember 6 names, okay? Darius Champion, Alziya Denise Bernard, Jonecia Brown, Deaisha Brown, Ivana DeKizer, and Robin Monique Ellis. Okay. Have you heard their names before? Have you seen their photographs on television? Did their disappearances interrupt your news feed? Um, did an alert ever reach your phone? Or did their faces pass through the internet so quietly that you never knew they were gone? Well, that's the case of Black and missing people in America. But today we're going to do 4 things. First, we're going to say their names and share what is publicly known. Second, we are going to ask why some missing person cases become national emergencies while others struggle to become local news. Third, I'm going to explain why this is not an abstract media issue for me, because one of these missing women is my mother. And finally, I'm going to ask you to do something more useful than watch. All right? Because this is not true crime entertainment here. These are human beings. These are families living with unanswered questions, and, somewhere somebody may know something. I mean, you know. Hey, hello, what's up? It's your boy Aigner Elite here at Icon City News, and just like a lot of you, I've had to be more than one thing in life. I started off as a gay rapper, just fighting to have my own voice, and that transitioned into being an entrepreneur, building platforms and opportunities for other folks from underrepresented communities. Now, as the author of Rainbow Soul, a chosen lineage of Black queer music memory and becoming, every chapter of this journey has taught me that the stories that shape our world also shape how we see ourselves. And thanks to all the incredible people that I met along the way, I also realized that those lessons aren't just for people who live and look like me. So here on the commentary, we're going beyond the headlines. We're talking power, politics, music, entertainment, and what it all means for us. Welcome to the commentary on Icon City News, where our stories matter.
IconCityNews.com. IconCityNews.com.
Yes, Lord.
There's a reason why I do these stories. The issue is very important to me, and it's very personal to me. Robin Monique, my mother, who has been missing since 2003. I write about my missing mother in my book Rainbow Soul. So what I want to do right now is I want to start by talking about some people who went missing more recently. So this is Darius Champion. The materials provided by the Black and Missing Foundation list Darius as missing from Los Angeles since February 28, 2025. His last known communication with his family occurred that day while he was living in Los Angeles. He has a surgical scar on his bicep and tattoos depicting Zeus and a lightning bolt on his left leg. More than a year has passed. So let me ask you, where does a family place all of that uncertainty? What do you do with birthdays, holidays, and ordinary mornings when you don't know whether the person you love is safe or not? How many times should a family have to repost the same photograph before the rest of us decide that it matters? So this is Darius Champion. Everybody in the Los Angeles area, please keep your eyes out for him. All right, so this right here, this is Alziya Denise Bernard. Alziya was 15 when she was last seen in Oakland on June 16, 2026, near 5th and Play Streets. Police described her as having red hair and brown eyes, as she was reportedly wearing a pink head covering, a black shirt, and black shorts. An Ivana alert was activated because she was considered at risk due to her age. 15 years old. When you hear that, what's your first reaction? Concern? Or does some part of our culture immediately begin searching for a reason to make this child responsible for being missing? The runaway thing. Did she leave voluntarily? Was she difficult? Was there trouble at home? But before you do all that, ask yourself, why are those questions so often asked before the most important one? And that is, where is she? A teenager doesn't become undeserving of protection because adults believe she may have made a decision they would not have made. A missing child is still a child. So this is Alziya Denise Bernard, missing from Oakland, California. Continuing on with today's Missing in Color segment, this is Jonecia Brown. Jonecia, she was 16 when she was reported missing from Turlock, California on June 24th, 2026. Public listings indicate she may also have connections to the Pittsburgh, California area. Current missing person databases continue to list her missing in July. So do me a favor, take a look at her face. Okay, there's a case number, there's a barcode that you can, scan. But look at her face. Somebody somewhere is waiting to hear her voice, who is sleeping with their phone turned all the way up because they're afraid of missing the one call that might change everything. And again, how long does a child have to be missing before her name becomes newsworthy? So this is Jonecia Brown, missing from Turlock. Okay. So we are going to move over to the East Coast down to Georgia. This is DeAsia Brown. And this flyer provided by Black and Missing, and lists DeAsia as 17 years old and missing from Columbus, Georgia since May 24th, 2026. She was reportedly last seen around 8 o'clock that morning in the 4000 block of 15th Avenue. Her circumstances, like most of the people, all the people listed on this list are listed as unknown. Unknown. This can sound neutral, but there's nothing neutral about that. There's nothing neutral about not knowing where a 17-year-old girl is. Unknown means her family doesn't have an answer. unknown means investigators may still need the one witness who does not realize what they saw mattered. Unknown means somebody may have noticed a car conversation, a change in a routine, and dismissed it as ordinary. How many cases remain unknown because the people holding small pieces of information believe their piece is too small to matter? Deaisha Brown, missing from Columbus, Georgia. We're gonna stay in this area. Actually, we're gonna take it to Philadelphia. This is Ivana DeKizer. Ivanna was 12 when she disappeared from Philadelphia's Frankfurt section on May 1st, 2026. Um, According to Philadelphia police, she told her mother that she was going to a nearby park and expected to return within about 30 minutes. She did not return. Police say she knew how to use the city's public transit system and was known to frequent the area around the 200 block of Pickwick Street. 12 years old, though. 12 years old. She left for a park. Think about how, ordinary that sentence even sounds. Like how many children leave home that go visit their friends or do something after school and you expect them to be home by dinner. How many parents just say, be careful without imagining that those could be the last words that they say to them. And how does a family continue living inside a home where, every room reminds you of them or you're going through your daily routine and they're not there to be part of it? And this right here is Robin Monique Ellis, my mother. Robin was 37 years old when she disappeared from Philadelphia on December 7th, 2003. She was working at Woodland Village Pizza near 63rd Street and Woodland Avenue. She left the restaurant with some orders and she never returned. 2 days later, her brown 1995 Hyundai Elantra was found abandoned on Interstate 95. And so more than 2 decades later, her case remains unsolved. 23 years is long enough for a photograph to begin looking like it belongs to another era. The hairstyles change. Shout out to the finger waves. Even though some of the stuff is coming back again, the technology changes, the city changes, and the child left behind becomes an adult. But the question does not age. What happened to her? There's no graduation from having a missing parent. There's no ceremony where somebody declares that enough time has passed and the uncertainty no longer belongs to you. You just learn how to build a life around an unanswered question. Um, and that's why I need you to understand that these are just 6 pieces of content. They're not just 6 opportunities for speculation. These are 6 people whose absence continues to occupy a space in somebody else's life. And so, if you can, share those folks' names. But now, let me ask you something uncomfortable. What makes one missing person case dominate the national news while another receives a flyer and a prayer? Is it the circumstances? Is it the photograph? Is it the location? Is it the family's access to reporters? By the way, let me put this up there. I'm getting these cases from the Black and Missing Foundation. I definitely encourage everyone to check them out and support them. But you can also send in stories about missing people or other stories that you think really need to get out there to us. Alrighty. So the email is, on the screen. And so why is it this way? Is there still an unspoken idea inside of American media about whose disappearance feels unusual and whose disappearance is treated like part of the background? You know, this is not an argument that any missing white person receives too much concern. Okay. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that any family should receive less attention. Um, the question is why so many other families receive so little. In 2025, the Black and Missing Foundation and the Washington Association of Black Journalists released a reporting guide specifically because missing people of color have historically been overlooked or underreported. Their work also found that many newsrooms lacked formal policies governing which missing person cases receive coverage and how the cases should be handled. Think about that. A newsroom has policies for elections. They have policies for crime reporting. They have policies for anonymous sources, excuse me, policies for photographs, but no consistent standard for deciding whether your missing child becomes breaking news or remains a Facebook post. And we're going to do what we do. We're going to do what we can with the Facebook, right? And so share folks that ain't your family, please. But what fills the gap, in these newsrooms? They're just using their judgment. Well, there's bias in judgment inherently. Are they using assumptions about the family, assumptions about the neighborhoods that they're reporting on, assumptions about whether the missing person ran away, was involved in drugs, lived a high-risk lifestyle, or somehow created the conditions for their own disappearance? And once that framing takes hold, urgency starts leaking out of the story. But tell me, does a person become less missing because their life was complicated? Does someone become less worthy of being found because they struggle? Does a child become less endangered because someone caused them to run away? There are people out there that prey on runaways. Does an adult stop belonging to a family because they may have made choices we don't understand? No. Human dignity cannot depend on presenting a perfect resume after you disappear. It just can't. We're humans. And so, up until this point, I know there will be people who see Robin's photograph and immediately want a complete emotional performance from me. They may want grief that is easy to recognize, and they may want, a son who only says, uncomplicated things about this person who's been missing for so long. But families are not always uncomplicated. Sometimes the person you miss is also somebody who hurt you. Sometimes love and fear, can occupy the same place. And so um, no one deserves, to not be found. Um, when we talk about humanity, there's some interesting studies in etymology around, you know, even the word human, which, comes from humos um, it's a similar root for humility and, and how to dehumanize someone is to deprive them of a proper burial or to deprive the people who are left mourning them with the opportunity to grieve. You know, just something to think about. You know, so the truth is human, and I can tell the truth about what I survived, and I still want the truth about what happened to Robin. I can acknowledge the complexity of our relationship. I write about surviving childhood abuse at her hands, and a grateful soul. Um, but all these folks have there's complexity in family lives. Um, so that's just all I want to say on that. I just want to say it one more time. Complicated people deserve to be found too. Poor people deserve to be found. People with addictions deserve to be found. Sex workers deserve to be found. Queer people deserve to be found. People who got into arguments with their families deserve to be found. People who left home voluntarily and then encountered danger deserve to be found. The search for a human being should not require proving that the human being was perfect. So, I promise to be more diligent about producing these segments. I probably will end with Robin all the time because it's personal to me and reminds me of why it's important to do this. But let's talk about what you can actually do, because watching this video to the end is not the action I need. All right. Leaving a comment with the broken heart emoji is not the action, though we do want you to, like, comment, and subscribe and all that. But, turning somebody's disappearance into your private detective fantasy is also not the action. But we do want you to share these flyers that are produced by the Black and Missing Foundation. Mhm. If you can find it to share it in a group, but use the law enforcement or the Black and Missing version. Share locally. Um, if you're new to Icon City, we focus on the entirety of California and, Philadelphia and Atlanta. Do you know people who work in hospitals, shelters, transit systems, schools, hotels, or community organizations? Send the flyer where there's a realistic chance somebody may recognize the person. And then, what I hate? When folks put the tips in the comment section, don't tag a witness publicly. Do not confront somebody that you suspect. Just send the information directly to law enforcement or the organization listed on the flyer. Okay. And stop spreading theories as facts. Families read those comments. I've personally heard some of the most hurtful rumors about what could have happened to my mother. Like, anyway, like, if that shit was true, what would have been awful? Like, if that'd be awful. Anyway. See, living out loud. We live this shit. And that's the thing. I'm never going to talk to you about some shit I'm not living. Like, it's been like no foe. That was the motto. It's still the motto. It ain't never going to change. So help me, help us share the flyers, report tips privately. And as always, I am yours in service. I do this in service of us because I believe that we indubitably matter. So before we get out of here, let us return to the 4 things we came here to do. First, we said their names. Darius Champion, Alziya Denise Bernard, Jonecia Brown, Deaisha Brown, Ivana DeKizer, and Robin Monique Ellis. Second, we asked why some disappearances become national emergencies while others barely become stories. And the answer is not simply that one case matters more, is that media systems, public bias, and unequal access still influence whose absence becomes visible. So we have to push back against that at every opportunity. Third, I told you why this is personal. One of those faces is my mother, but every face on this screen belongs to somebody. that's just that, you know? So, um, finally, we discussed what you can do. Share verified information, send tips to authorities, you know, not to social media, reject rumors, keep the names in circulation, and pay attention before a family has to beg for it. So I will ask you again, had you heard these names before today? You know, it's okay if you haven't, but will you remember them tomorrow? Will you share one of these flyers after the video ends? And, you know, when the next Black person disappears, are you going to wait for a national network to tell you that the case matters? Or will you decide that for yourself? Because, you know, the opposite of disappearance is not simply being found. Sometimes the first step is being seen. So help us find them. Help us find them. This is the commentary on Icon City News.
IconCityNews.com. IconCityNews.com.
Yes, Lord.
Okay, so I know this gets said a lot, right? But if you like this content or you're getting anything from it or you support independent journalism, then hit the subscribe button. Not only do I appreciate it and does it add to my passion to keep doing these type of stories, but it also helps increase the quality. So subscribe. And if you really want to make my day, visit iconcitynews.com and subscribe there.